Hi, my name is Gerard Daché, Executive Director of the Government Blockchain Association. I'd like to thank you for coming to the one of our first DC chapter meetings after the pandemic. So we're rebuilding this back up. So thank you guys for coming. Tonight we're going to be talking about crypto mining, energy, and opportunities. And I'm super excited to introduce Nabil. Nabil Malik. Nabil has a business called Cryptolitics. And Nabil, how long have you been studying this?
About 7 to 8 years. When did we meet first at the meetup?
I don't know.
Think it was like 8 years ago.
Like a million years ago, I think. Yeah, but anyway, so we've been good friends for a long time. He's absolutely a genius and brilliant when it comes to knowing about cryptocurrency and the state of blockchain and mining and all that stuff. He's run some mining operations and just a lot of wealth of experience. Before he actually gets started, I want to do one thing. I want to thank our sponsors who've provided this space for us, right? Really, it's all associated with Brock Pierce, the Bitcoin Foundation, Helios, Lighthouse, and Ying. These are companies that are part of his network, and so we just want to thank him for providing this facility for us. And with that, just to tell you a little bit about the Government Blockchain Association. If you haven't been to gbaglobal.org, please check it out. Check out the resources. There's just a ton of information there. And we look forward to hearing what Nabil has to say. All right, Nabil.
Hi guys, I hope everybody's doing well. What I thought about starting this meetup was with impactful recent events that are making waves in the crypto industry and also in the blockchain technology. So one of the biggest news that developed, I think, this month was BlackRock, who opened its doors to Coinbase. So BlackRock is the biggest hedge fund in the world. They manage over $10 trillion. More GDP than, I think, all the countries except the top 10. And they just signed a partnership with Coinbase, and they want to give some of their clients access to investing in crypto. So just to put it in perspective, right, on a high scale, the entire market cap of the crypto industry right now is 1.4 trillion. That's including Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins. And BlackRock alone manages $10 trillion. Even 5% of their portfolio moves into crypto, it can double the market cap easily. So when they talk about institutional adoption, this is what it will be, right? Clients of BlackRock are Fortune 500 companies, presidents, kings, queens, and they're giving them easy access through a trustworthy brokerage into Bitcoin, which has never happened before. So I thought this was very interesting, and I think this will kick off a lot of money into the industry. I mean, the crypto industry right now is very small. We're still at baby stages. If you look at the user rate and the money involved in it, it's as if being in the internet in 1998. You don't have defined Amazons and Googles yet, but they will becoming or are in the making right now. So I thought this was very interesting to share with everybody. Very positive news. Another big thing that I read this month and I wanted to discuss with everybody was about regulation in the United States. Can I take this off, Gerard? All right.
Before you go into
Sure.
Can I just add something to the last thing you just said? I've been speaking to some folks internationally, so GBA has folks all over the world, and one of the people I was talking to is in Moscow, right?
Wow.
And she does a lot of business with companies around the world, and so we were talking about something, and apparently they're using USDT because they can't get any foreign access.
Yeah.
And so her whole community of all of these people in Russia, right, are now essentially converting over because they didn't use crypto before. Now they're all converting over to USDT. Because their country can't get access to foreign capital.
Absolutely.
So I think the impact that that's going to have on crypto adoption is going to be huge.
Yeah, and I think most of the donations that happened in Ukraine happened through cryptocurrency and blockchain because no other currency could make it to the people. Our next topic is CFTC would become primary crypto regulators under the new Senate committee plan. So the committee of the United States has a new plan. So they're realizing the struggle that the SEC is having with the crypto industry. I don't think they're the right entity from the government to manage that industry, and I don't believe they truly understand it. They're providing a lot of scrutiny. I think the XRP lawsuit's been happening for a year. They haven't provided the right amount of evidence to say that XRP was operating illegally. So I've heard this before as well. So the Senate Agriculture Committee that oversees the Commodity and Futures Trading Commission introduced a bill Wednesday saying that CFTC exclusive jurisdiction over the cryptocurrency trades that meet the commodities laws. So they want to bring the entire industry under the commodities laws rather than the SEC, and which I think is the right direction, and it will help grow the crypto industry in the right way. Okay, I think this is one of the biggest events that has happened or will happen in the next, in the past 10 years for cryptocurrency. So I think a lot of people have heard about this, the merge that's coming for Ethereum, which they call a hard fork. A hard fork basically means a software update to the current protocol and the blockchain. So there's advantages. So currently Ethereum has some issues, right? Has scaling issues, and anybody that's been involved, who owns Ethereum in this room or has ever? What are one of the biggest issues with Ethereum? High gas fees. That's a big problem, right? Scalability is a big problem with Ethereum. So they've been working on launching a hard fork and updating and resolving these issues so they can scale bigger. When I look at the crypto industry, I see Ethereum as the Amazon, right? Their blockchain right now is the most utilized blockchain in the world. A lot of cryptocurrencies have used their blockchain, ERC20, to launch their own coins. For example, Chainlink runs on ERC20. The entire NFT market, or 98% of it, all runs on Ethereum's blockchain. So when you look at live cases, I think Ethereum has the most out of any other company, and they're decentralized, meaning their blockchain is decentralized. If you wanted to launch a token tonight, you can do it within 10 minutes on Ethereum's blockchain, and they left it open for the world to use. And let's discuss the details of this merger, right? Everybody talks about it, but let's understand what they're really trying to do, right? The biggest thing that they're doing is moving from proof of work to proof of stake. So what does that mean? Proof of work basically means that it's mineable. Really, mining is you have a very high-end machine that produces very high algorithms and runs through billions of numbers at one time trying to crack the code or the equation to the next Ethereum. The cons of that Ethereum Foundation noticed was it's high electricity, right? You're using a lot of electricity. It's very expensive to manage, and you can't scale mining to a level. So they're switching it from proof of work to proof of stake. Proof of stake basically means is they're going to define that we're going to have X amount of coins in our treasury, and we're going to release X amounts every day, every month, every year. So they call this Ethereum merge a triple halving, right? Triple halving. When we talk about halving, we'll start from the very basic level. Halving basically means is that mining reward is getting cut in half. Bitcoin goes through a halving period every 4 years where the mining reward is cut in half, but the price goes up and justifies the value for it. For example, I have one machine that creates Bitcoin. Today, for example, it's making 1 Bitcoin a year. 4 years, 3 years from now, in 2024, 2 years from now, when the halving happens, that same machine will make half a Bitcoin. So by default, it's deflationary because the rate of issuance is going down. Same thing with Ethereum, right? It's happening, but Ethereum Foundation wants to move to proof of stake. They don't want to be part of the mining, and part of the reason is they want to be eco-friendly, right? Not waste the world's electricity, and also they want to slim the issuance. So right now as we speak, every day there's 13,000 Ethereum that get mined from everywhere mining in the world. Once this merge happens, only 1,300 Ethereum will be issued by the treasury of Ethereum. That's why they call it a triple halving, because the supply is going to fall by 90%. And that's one aspect of what the merge will do. Another thing is the validators on Ethereum chain and other chains. The Ethereum is just a larger network of people using it. That's why the upgrade is needed. This is a little bit more complex. They're just moving the chains from beacon node to executive engine. It's still P2P, but the only difference is going to be the issuance will happen from a treasury of Ethereum's nonprofit rather than mineable. And I think relative energy consumption per transaction will fall by 98% because nobody's using energy to mine or manage farms to create Ethereum. So by evolving the network's approach to consensus, the merge will reduce Ethereum's energy requirements by 99.95%. So Ethereum in the next month will be completely eco-friendly. Yeah.
So the thing about proof of work is it's very difficult to falsify or fraud, right? If something is released out of a treasury,
Yeah.
What assurance is there that the custodian of that treasury essentially is being honest with the supply?
I think it still goes through validators, right? So I think they have a core team of validators that will validate every Ethereum being released. And there will be tracking based on the 1,300 per day.
I guess my question is, what prevents them from minting more than they claim?
The validators should catch them. If they don't, I think everybody is dirty, right? But I think there's a lot of people, like you can be a validator on their new protocol by staking, I think it was last time I heard, 30 Ethereum. So if you have 30 Ethereum staked in this merge, you can be a validator node, and every transaction that happens and the issuance that happens, you validate it. So a lot of people, I think they have over, $2 billion that are staked right now with thousands of people becoming validators. So those validators will get a small percentage, right? Very minimal amount, I think $5 or $10 per validation they do, but they will be validating the issuance and the transactions of the blockchain.
Got it.
And this is what I was talking about earlier, sound and secure, where the current rate of issuance is 13,000. The issuance after the merge is 1,300. So 90% drop in issuance means all the exchanges will be low on Ethereum, right? You're not getting 13,000 dumped every day by miners. Well, I believe that will do is transfer over and the price increasing, right? The supply is slimming, demand is still there, and the price will go up. Any questions on the Ethereum merge?
So if the quantity is less, how does that impact the gas fees?
I think the gas fees, they're breaking them down too. I think they're breaking them down by 80%, right?
But you're going to have the same need. The traffic on Ethereum on the blockchain there is going to be as voluminous as it is now.
I agree, but I believe part of the merge is doing a layer 2 solution.
What does that mean?
Having another chain run parallel to the current chain. So the
Ethereum
traffic
chain.
isn't as high, or the traffic has more space to go into. So they are launching another chain. I think that's why this slide kind of explains it. They will have multiple chains running side by side, expanding the current rate of transactions. And that's part of the upgrade that they're working on. But what I believe will happen is this is not going to happen all in one update. I think it's going to be 3 months, 6 months, that changes will constantly keep happening. Because these amount of software upgrades, you can't put in one software release. Maybe they'll change the proof of work to proof of stake in this release. Maybe next release they launch the extra chains to lower the gas fees. But I think it's going to happen over the next couple of years.
Okay, thank you.
And it all works on consensus. I think the way Ethereum runs is probably the best example in the market right now. So all the developers had to vote for this merger, right? If the vote doesn't come out in the favor, they don't move ahead with it. This has been in talks for years, but they just didn't have the right amount of votes. Because, for example, say if you're a miner, like I was a few years ago, and I have a data center with Ethereum miners, if I've invested $500,000 or $1 million in Ethereum miners, and you change your proof, my $1 million goes to waste. I mean, I can reroute the machines, which new machines, you can mine Litecoin, Bitcoin, or Ethereum, but it still hurts people. So they have to get the consensus of everybody involved, right? So I think every new machine right now in the market that mines Ethereum, they can switch the algorithm pretty easily to mine Bitcoin or Litecoin or other currencies. Okay, another part of this presentation that I created that we wanted to talk about was Bitcoin mining, right? A lot of people hear this term and it just doesn't make sense, or nobody explains it in a simple way. All mining is having now, right? Back then, say 5-10 years ago, you can mine with that laptop right there because the difficulty rate was so low. But the difficulty rate is so high because there's so many people mining that you need very high computational computers. The biggest seller in the world is called Bitmain. It's a company in China that creates the best miners. You can create a miner at home, right? We create miners for Cryptolytics, some of our clients, through GPUs. So GPUs are very high-end graphic cards by NVIDIA, and what they do is they pump out enough computing power to become profitable miners. So mining is just having a very high-end computer that generates a certain amount of hash rate that contributes to the pool that you're in that gives you a payment every day. For example, if I have one miner, right, and it's one machine, my miner may never crack the next Bitcoin or Ethereum in its lifetime over a 5-10 year period. But what you do is you join a mining pool. A mining pool has a consensus. There's so many. There's Antpool, there's Hive is a new one. What the consensus of the entire pool is, they say, hey, everybody contributes a hash rate. It's almost like horsepower in a car or gasoline, right? Everybody's contributing a certain hash rate. It doesn't matter which machine cracks the next Bitcoin or Ethereum, we'll all share the profits. So it becomes a lot more stable for even a small miner. So I think when I was mining, or even now, I think one Bitmain machine runs, I think now 9,000 to 10,000. It produces XYZ hash rate. I think it still does about $800 to $1,000 in Bitcoin or Ethereum. That doesn't mean that your machine made a Bitcoin. It's just you've contributed enough hash rate to the pool to make that money. I think the daily on it is $7 to $8. Some 6, some 7, depending on the model. But that consensus I really like is because you let the little guy be in the same pool with somebody with 1,000 machines. Right? He's getting the same hash rate per machine from the pool, hash rate, money, right? He's still making that $7 to $8 a day from 100 machines, but you're still making $7 from your one machine. So the playing level is pretty fair. The only place that I think where institutionals have a great edge is on electricity rate. These computers run on very high electricity. They run on 220, usually take a lot of voltage. About $100 is the cost at 7 to 8 cents a kilowatt per hour in Virginia if you just plug it in. But what these big companies like Riot, it's a publicly traded company, Marathon's another publicly traded company, when they start mining data centers and facilities, they'll talk to states' governments, right? Texas is huge in doing this. They'll go talk to the governor and say, we're going to put a $100 million data center, we're going to hire 3,000 people from the state of Texas, and we're going to guarantee buying 50, 100 megawatts per year from you. We'll give you a guarantee that will be the purchase rate. So their electricity rate is going to be 2 to 3 cents kilowatt per hour. So they beat the average person at home by 80%, right? Just because they're providing jobs to that state, They're buying the extra electricity the power plant produces, and they're spending money in the infrastructure of that state. When I was mining 7 years ago, companies like this didn't exist, right? Bitcoin wasn't as popular. There weren't Fortune 500 companies spending $100 million on data centers. So the profitability 7 years ago out of the basement of your house was much higher because you didn't have these big players in the mining industry. I talked about a lot of things. Any questions, anybody?
I have a question, and also I want you to comment on something.
Yeah.
So comment on this first, right? You shared with me that energy companies, because of the peak usage and stuff like
Yeah.
that, we're doing some stuff in the mining space. So tell them about that. But then what I really need to ask you is, a lot of folks say that because of the mining pools, that Bitcoin's really not decentralized, that it's really centralized. And what I don't know is, because people are pulling the hash rate, does that also give them the ability to collude? Can the different participants of a mining pool collude to basically falsify records? I don't know the answer to that.
That's a great question, right? So if you take the entire hash rate of Bitcoin, right, around the whole globe, there's not one company right now that owns more than 60%, right?
60? Did you say 60%?
60% of the entire hash rate, right? That's really, really hard number to hit, even for a company that goes out and invests $100 million into machines. Because I'm one guy, I used to have 40 machines in my basement. There's 300 million people in America. Say even 0.5% have one machine. And I know some friends and clients that have one machine running in their basement, and they're still running it. And I think it's a lot more decentralized than people think it is, because it's accessible even today for the little guy. For example, you still need to spend about $8,000 on a machine, but it's not $1 million. It's achievable for most people. And if you want to run one machine in your basement for $8,000 over the next 5-6 years, that is possible, right? I think we have a miner in here. She's a miner. She has 2 machines running. So I think that 60% point hasn't been hit by one entity yet.
But I guess my question is, if an entity has whatever percentage, right?
Yeah.
Just because they're sharing the hash rate, does that mean that they can collude?
The collusion happens if you own 60% or more of the hash rate. That's what I've read, right? If one entity becomes large enough that they had the entire hash rate of Bitcoin, they own 60% of it, I think that's where they can confuse the system or mess up the system. But they say until one entity doesn't hit 60%, they don't have enough in-house hash power to break the system.
So let me just ask you one more time. So most miners, as I understand, if they join a pool, they're going to get a machine, they're going to plug it in. Are they going to have the ability, right, to falsify, to basically get false block records?
I'll let her answer that. She's a miner, and I want her to answer that.
I'm going to say no, because of the fact that when you are mining, there's so many different pieces to the equation. You have your machine, you have your wallet, and in the company that I have my machines at the moment, I can see everything. I can see the daily hash power, I can see the drop, and I can see it changing. So there's with this company, there's a lot of transparency. I can't speak for every company, but even with companies that I interviewed, because I have to move my machines, I've seen their back office, and I've seen where I might be putting my wallet, which is where my Bitcoin would drop, and then I can see the sort of like a daily ticker dropping, calculating. So it would be, in my mind, hard because of the volume of miners that are participating for there to be that type of collusion.
I think the volume of transactions
Yes.
happening
Yes.
at the rate they happen at, like maybe next time I'll bring in a machine, we can plug it in really quick. But even if you see a live hash rate being produced, it's millions of numbers running constantly.
Constantly.
Right? It's very, very, and that's one machine. Imagine 10,000 machines hashing constantly, the amount of numbers that machine is running, it's very hard to do, right? Very difficult. So like as of now, in the history of Bitcoin, nobody has broken the blockchain, right? It hasn't been broken. Coinbase has been hacked, right? But that's Coinbase itself, not Bitcoin's blockchain being hacked. So as of now, it hasn't happened. I mean, Solana goes down here and there, but Solana's a new company. But Bitcoin and Ethereum have been known for their blockchains being unhackable, right? When we hear Coinbase got hacked or Gemini did or MetaMask wallet did, those are those platforms and exchanges getting hacked, not the technology itself.
And the other reason why it's going to be difficult is because each block communicates with the next one, and if the
They're the
communication,
validators. The next one
yeah.
is if it doesn't fit, if the next validator,
won't
for
move.
example, one block goes in and he has a set of numbers, your block doesn't match those numbers, it's not going to accept it. It's going to completely deny it, right? And that's the beauty of blockchain technology. Your last block is validating the next block.
And then can you talk about the energy companies?
Oh, they're getting massively involved. I was, matter of fact, I had a conversation with the CEO of Marathon. We started talking. I have a friend that's a VP there, my old partner, and his thing was, he's like, Nabil, I'm not in the business of building $100 million data center anymore. I'm in the business of buying $100 million worth of machines and letting the energy companies use their facilities. So energy companies and mining companies are becoming very lateral, right? So all these mining companies said, why am I gonna spend $100 million on an entire new platform or structure or buildings when I can just pay 2 cents higher per electricity and use their facility and have them as a co-location place? So the energy companies are becoming the host. The mining companies are becoming the customers that are placing their companies there. They're like machine operators, and the energy companies are the host that are placing those machines. So that's Marathon's entire business philosophy is, I am not spending any money on building anything out. I just want to talk to energy companies, tell them I'll pay them a cent, a penny or two more per hour per electricity rate, and you have my machines, and I only buy machines and place them there. And I think Exxon's getting involved now. I read an article. Every big energy company has excess electricity that goes to waste, right? That nobody buys, right? A power plant produces, say, 300 megawatts per day, uses 280. That 20 megawatts go to waste. But if they have a mining facility, they can just use the extra electricity produced that's already going to waste and generate a stream of revenue. And that's where I think electricity companies and power plants are headed. Because before, it was very difficult for them to monetize that extra 20% that's left over.
The other thing that I would just add is that some of the Bitcoin mining companies are also very green oriented. And so
Absolutely.
like the company that I'm with at the moment uses hydropower, but there are others that are using solar. So there's definitely a balance of awareness of what to do and kind of keep the energy costs and the environment healthy too.
And I believe the electricity, I think there's a lot of bad propaganda around it. But if you do the math and numbers, the amount of electricity that the city of Las Vegas uses is higher than all the mining happening all over the world, right? At the end of the day, what is Vegas producing? Gamblers or revenue from gambling, right? Bitcoin is still producing an asset that people trade all over the world. So the argument that Bitcoin's bad for the environment, but so are a lot of other things.
And can I make one other comment about that?
Sure.
A couple things. One of them is energy is not ubiquitous, meaning it's not the same everywhere, right? There
Yeah.
are some places where energy is very expensive,
Absolutely.
right, and very scarce, and other places where it's very plentiful.
Open. Absolutely.
Right? You know, I'm guessing electricity near Niagara Falls is going to be a lot probably cheaper than energy in the middle of the Sahara Desert.
Absolutely.
Right? Unless you're doing solar, I guess. But so mining tends to happen because miners essentially are in business.
Yeah.
Right? They're in business to make a profit, so they're going to move their operation to places where where energy is the
Absolutely.
most plentiful,
Yep.
right? And in some cases, even wasted.
Yep.
Right. So the concept when people talk about the energy, unlike anything else, the mining can happen where the energy is cheapest, and
Absolutely.
the market is going to drive it to where the energy is essentially the most abundant
And secure, right?
and secure. And then also to your point, I'm going to see if I can find this really quick. If you compare, let me see if I can find this super quick. If you compare the amount of energy that is used by just the gaming industry. And what's interesting is one of the folks that I knew was the biggest critic of Bitcoin and mining was a guy, you might have heard of him. His name is Bill Gates. He did a lot of stuff in the computer industry, and a lot of people use Microsoft systems for video games. And I'm looking for the numbers. I can't find it. When you calculate the amount of energy used by a single gaming console, by the number of hours per day the average person plays, by the number of people that play it in the world, I do have the number somewhere, I don't have it readily available. It's huge.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's ridiculously huge.
I
And
agree.
then, so, people, and the one last thing I'll say about this, I'm going to tell you a little analogy. When Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, right, he didn't get rich on the light bulb. He got rich by stringing wires to everybody's houses, and he created a little company called General Electric,
Absolutely.
right? Well, when he was stringing light bulb wires to people's houses, the people that were really angry were the oil companies, because houses were being lit by kerosene lamps at the time. And if you put an electric light, then the oil companies didn't like it. It was cutting into their market share. So they launched a massive advertising campaign,
Yep.
right? And they said, don't put electricity in your house. If you do it, this is nothing more than unbridled lightning. And it will electrocute your husband, right? It will burn your house down, and it will kill your children, right? Because the oil companies didn't want people to do this. Well, what happened when cryptocurrency started coming up? Who does it threaten? The banks. And what do they say? Don't do Bitcoin. It will destroy the planet.
Yeah.
It will kill your children, right? So you have to understand a lot of times when these criticisms come, what is it that's causing these criticisms to come? Oftentimes, it's agendas that may not be obvious.
Absolutely. I agree. All right, I'm just going to take you guys through like a process flow for Bitcoin mining, just for better understanding for everybody here. What happens when you're a miner? What is the machine itself doing, right? Verify if the transactions are valid, bundle the transactions in a block, select the header of the most recent block, and insert the new block as a hash. Solve the proof of work. Right? Question mark, it's an equation. When the solution is found, the new block is added to the local blockchain and prepared to the network, right? So you create a block, the block gets added to the blockchain, the last block on the blockchain validates that it's a valid block, and then it gets added. That's what the machine or the hash rate and the mining pool end up doing when they generate the new Bitcoin or new Ethereum. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to talk about some companies or relative ways that you can get involved in Bitcoin mining if you'd like to, right? Riot, Blockchain Inc., Marathon Digital Holdings, they're publicly traded. Easiest way to get involved, if you think Bitcoin is going to make it or the mining is a great business, you can buy their stocks on any exchange right now. That is, I think, the easiest way. Second layer, say if somebody wants to be a miner, right? Bitmain has probably the best machines in the world, but they have a caveat against them, right? So Bitmain is a company in China that produces the most profitable miners in the world. I've had about 120. They have pros and cons. The pro is you spend $10,000, and I think they only take it in crypto. I think maybe now they take the dollars. Back when I did it 5 years ago, they only took crypto. They don't give you a receipt. Their deliveries after a month. But the beautiful thing about their machine is it's the most profitable machine. And what I mean by profitable, it gives you the highest dollar amount return per day, their hash rate is the highest. It's about a $10,000 machine, sometimes 12, and it gives you the highest return. But the caveat, and that's how I think they sometimes sucker people, is the longevity of that machine is only 3-4 years. It burns out. And the second thing is the maintenance of the machine is heavy. Meaning, if I was to put one machine in this room, it's almost, think of a dryer at home working. The heat that a dryer gives in that volume is very similar to how one Bitmain machine does. So you got to find a way to let the heat out, right? You got to ventilate it outside the house, or the house will get too heated. So besides those two caveats, I think they make great machines. If you can catch, I'll give you an explanation, right? Say Bitcoin's price right now is 24,000. I order one machine today, I get it next month. Bitcoin stays at 24,000 for the next 3 years or 4 years, and it doesn't go to 100,000, which I don't think is likely. And I'm mining, my mining is very unprofitable, right? Unless I'm paying for the operating cost out of my pocket, meaning the electricity rate and any maintenance out of my own pocket, saving the Bitcoin and waiting for Bitcoin to go over 100,000. But imagine ordering the machine 2 years ago, when Bitcoin took its ride from about 8,000 to 69,000. Whoever mined in those 2 years was highly profitable, right? Because he carried the bull market. Timing on mining these Bitmain machines is critical. If you turn on a machine in the start of a bear market and your machine dies as soon as a bull run starts or is not working, you're not going to be profitable unless you're just holding Bitcoin and if you're not selling it monthly, right? That's one way of mining. Another very popular way, right? I have friends whose kids have built these machines. You can build, in my company, Cryptolitics, we do build these machines for clients on request basis. So it's basically a regular PC that's a little bit bigger with 6 to 8 to 10 GPUs. NVIDIA makes these GPUs. GPU is basically a very high-end graphic cards. Gamers use it too. That produces a lot of computational power. You can build a GPU or find a company that builds a GPU machine. The beauty of that, there's pros and cons in that too. The pro is the per day is not as high as a Bitmain machine, but the longevity is a lot longer. There's machines that are running, that are GPU based with graphic cards to 8 to 10 years, right? So you will get your investment back over a longer period and probably more, but the per day is going to be a lot longer, a lot lower. Any questions on home mining or just practical mining?
So at one point there was a shortage of graphic cards.
In every bull run, there's a shortage.
So is it not shortage now?
I think there isn't as bad. So if you look at the market, right, everything around cryptocurrency, may it be NFTs, mining, land in the metaverse, is all driven by the price of Bitcoin. When the price of Bitcoin's at 60 in the last bull run, I think graphic cards were obsolete. They were selling on eBay and Amazon and Facebook for $3,000, $2,000. The average price of one graphic card, the NVIDIA one, is about $1,400. People were buying them for Best Buy, selling them for $3,000 online, and people were buying them because the profit was that high at that time. At this moment, I think nobody's paying $3,000 per graphic cards. Bitmain does the same thing. The Chinese company, I have a very hate-love relationship with them. In a bull run, they'll mark up their machines 30 to 40%, but in times like this, they'll mark them down because nobody wants one, right? It's not as profitable. So every mining equipment is highly correlated to where the price of Bitcoin is.
What is the cost if you buy your own machine or if you use like mining as a service?
I don't know what the buying at the service is, but I can tell you the cost of the machine, how much there are, right?
I'll give an example. There's companies where you can go through to actually buy the machine, and then they also store them or house them at a data center. They manage it for you. Yeah. Supposedly they get better electricity rates. Is it better per the full cost that goes into it to go through them compared to do it yourself and then have an another task. That
I'm very passionate about this business. I like doing it myself. I built a data center in the basement, and then we bought a commercial place in Pennsylvania a few years ago. But I think the services are great too. I think it's headache-free. But you got to understand, when something you're not hands-on involved in it, in one way or another, the cost is higher, because somebody's got to pay the bills for all the employees running that company. So for example, you're running one machine out of your basement, you're the maintenance guy, you're the troubleshoot guy, you're cutting that cost, right? They might be cutting the cost from electricity rates, right? They might get a better rate on that, which is amazing, but there is a cost correlated for co-locate. We call it the co-location facilities. Like in my data center, we had half the data center with me and my partner had our own machines. We had about 300 of our own, and then we co-hosted about 500 for people. So our electricity rate in Pennsylvania was 5.8 cents, and then we were marking it up, I think, 1.5 cents per hour for colo, right? So our rate for our machines was much cheaper, but we had to charge that rate because we were troubleshooting it. We had an employee looking at the machines. We were installing them. We were making sure the time that they were on, running time, was 99.9%. So I think there's a cost affiliated all the time, but I don't know. I think in my career, when I look back at the past 8 years, I would have been better off buying Bitcoin 8 years ago and holding it than getting involved in building a mining data center.
So my follow-up question to that is, if you're mining now, you're saying that you're not going to be making money only if you're selling Bitcoin that you're making off of it, or if
no,
you're
I think the only way, true way, as a small miner, right? It depends how much money you're investing, right? I consult all the time. If you're investing 10,000, it's going to be hard for you to make monthly revenue. You would have to hold the mine Bitcoin for at least the next bull run when Bitcoin tops 100,000 and sell then, and you probably hit a profit hard, right? But your daily cost will have to come out of your pocket, your operational cost, that electricity bill or XYZ that you're paying for a service or a co-location facility.
I see. How many machines would you need to have to make monthly profit
I think that comes
at a current market?
It depends, right? So I think if I run the numbers right now, we can run the numbers. I think it'll take a lot longer. I got to see the hash rate. But say the profitability per machine right now on a Bitmain machine that runs about 9,000 right now, SJ17, is 800 a month, right? For example, $100 goes to electricity, right? That's if you're lucky. Maybe 120. Net is 700. But out of that 700, you got to pay off that 9,000, right? That's not your profit. You can think of it as profit, but you got to pay the asset off, right? So 700 times 10, you're at 7,000. Say a year goes by, you pay the machine off, right? Then your following year, hopefully your profiting is still 500-600, and that can be your profit for the next 2 years. My problem with Bitmain is their machines should last longer than they do. And I think they do it on purpose. They don't want their machines to run 10 years because nobody will buy new machines. I've had machines break down on me in year 2 and year 3. Their repairs suck, their customer service sucks, but the problem is they want you to buy new machines every 3 years. So mentally, when I look at a Bitmain machine, I'm like, whatever it can produce in 3, tops 4 years is my total revenue, minus the cost of electricity, minus the cost of the machine, and that's my profit. And we can run it. You can call me. I'll give you my number. I have a calculator on my home computer that we can take a live machine, look at the hash rate, look at your rate of electricity, and just crunch the numbers. At the end of the day, it's math.
One thing that also has to be mentioned is insurance, because you can insure your machines, and that will also be added to. But some of the hosting companies also provide a guarantee that if your machine breaks down during a certain time period, they will replace it. Not everyone does that. So if there's different ways to go, but like
agree.
everything else, you have to do your research, because there's always these little other things that happen.
So these Bitmain machines, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned they get cheaper during bears market.
Yeah.
And they're more expensive
Of
during
course.
bulls market.
Yeah.
And their lifespan is say 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
So am I able to buy them during a bear's market and
Yeah.
then not use them because their lifespan is 3-4 years? Is that lifespan only while they're being used?
Only use time, right?
So you can buy them in a bear's market and wait to plug them in till.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You can retroactively do something too, right? It all depends on how much liquid money you have. For example, it's a bear market. I think the Bitmain machine is probably cheap, 9,000. When Bitcoin was 60,000, they were running 13 to 14,000. I order a machine today, I plug it in. I never sell my Bitcoin. I pay the hosting fee or the electricity bill if it's running out of my house, out of my pocket. So it's an increase of, say, $100 a month, right? And I don't sell the mined Bitcoin for 3 years and wait until Bitcoin goes to 100,000. I'm highly profitable. But most people, right, 90% people in the market do this business for a monthly passive income. They want to see a return per month. But if you can hold, I think that's the best way. That's the best way. That's what the way Marathon runs and Riot. They don't sell Bitcoin mined every day. I think Marathon makes, I think 3 or 4 Bitcoin a day right now. And he said we don't sell every day. They sell at moments when the bull market is high, right? They have enough money in their treasury by their investors where they don't have to sell.
So are these machines, are they producing the same amount whether you're in a bear's market or a bull's market?
Same amount of electricity. The electricity stays the same. The amount of Bitcoin earned or made stays the same. The only difference is, say if I mined 0.2 Bitcoin today and Bitcoin's price is 20,000, it's a lot less than if it's 69,000. So the math will, in the long run, works out the same, but most people like to cash out monthly because they've put the machine on a credit card or they borrowed money for that. They need to make that payment. They need to make the electricity payment or hosting fee, right? People don't like to come out of pocket, right? And that's where I think in mining for the small guy, it hurts him because he doesn't have the ability. Like in my data center, we had rent due and we had a payroll and we had our machines, right? From investors that we put money in. We had to sell monthly, right? We could have gone 60 days without selling, but we wouldn't be operational if we waited a year, right? Because we didn't have that extra money.
Which one did you say to look at for Bitmain? Which machine?
I think their main one is SJ, 18, 17.
S19.
S19 they have, yeah, that's probably their main one right now. How much is it running?
S19 right now. S19 Pro is 5,900.
Wow. This was 12,000 when Bitcoin was at
S19 Hydro is 3,900.
What's the power?
Huh?
What's the power?
The power is 95T.
terahashes. Yeah, that's phenomenal. It's a great price.
So the 3,900 is 95T. Actually 3,950 is the S19 Hydro, which has 150.
So the question that I ask myself, right, every time I want to get into mining again is, I have 4,000 or 10,000 or 20 or 50, whatever the money is irrelevant, the amount, say I have 10,000. Do I have a better shot of making more money with that 10,000 by buying half a Bitcoin today or buying a machine? Right, that's the hard question.
How do you figure that out?
Huh?
How do you figure that out?
You run numbers, right? You kind of run, nobody can truly figure it out because if the machine breaks down after 2 years, you're screwed. Right? Or the electricity rate goes up. I think there's a lot more variables in mining, right, than owning one. But I think I have that argument with myself a lot.
But if you're running a business, you also have other expenses that you can write off. So it's not just the cost out
Yeah.
reductions and
I know, but if you're not selling your Bitcoin, like in this market, if I was a miner, I'd never sell a Bitcoin. So you're losing money every year on paper, right? And you can't expense out anything if you're not producing revenue. So it gets difficult. But if you're selling, then it's great, right? Your tax becomes lower, but that's if you're selling. Like, I think this is the moment where most data centers, small miners, bleed out. We call it bleeding out, where you have an operating cost that's not being met by the amount of Bitcoin you're selling because the price of Bitcoin has fallen in the bear market. Riot and Marathon and these large companies will survive it because they have enough revenue to pay for their operating costs and payroll.
Nabil, can you talk a little bit about how the difficulty rate changes when miners come in or go out of the market?
It changes rapidly all the time. I think the difficulty rate right now is lower, but it's not enough of an impact that the price of Bitcoin is, right? Meaning the difficulty rate does fall, but the price of Bitcoin falling hurts a miner a lot more. Because he's still creating the quantity might go up by 0.00 something, but if the price is down 70% or 60% from an all-time high, if he's selling on a monthly basis, he's losing money. But difficulty rates, there's a live ticker online that you can look at that changes all the time, right? But it doesn't change as significantly as people think it does. It might affect, say if you have one machine, it might affect you by 10, 20 cents a day, right? But it's not as significant as where the crypto market is headed or the price of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I just want to provide some background or context to that. So, a Bitcoin block gets mined every 10 minutes, right? And so if you've got thousands of these miners all mining and it's all kind of statistical, right? The reason why the difficulty rate goes up or down is because they want to make it so statistically a block will get mined every 10 minutes, right? So if there's a change in the market and the price of Bitcoin goes up or down, and miners are either more profitable or less profitable, they either come or go in out of the pool, right, or the ecosystem, right? So that difficulty rate is going to be changing all the time, so that statistically a block is mined every 10 minutes.
So there's data centers by Bitmain or even other companies that are shut down right now because they don't want to turn them on in this market. As soon as Bitcoin hits 50, 40,000 again, they'll shoot them back on. And you'll see the difficulty rating just go up because there's 100,000 more machines that just got turned on this morning, right? And they do that fairly often.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why would they want to turn on now if they bought machines when Bitcoin was lower in price? In other words, if they have machines that cost a lot less, they're making money even at this rate, right?
Because the electricity cost of running that data center, the operational cost, is not being met by selling the Bitcoin that's mined in today's market. So you rather save the longevity of the machine and if you don't have the money. If you have the money, it doesn't matter, right? But if you don't have the money and you would turn them off right now, a year later or 6 months when Bitcoin hits 40 or 50,000, turn them on and then you can pay your bills, right? Any other questions, guys? I know this mining stuff is fairly boring sometimes.
Actually, I do have a follow-up question. Since you're saying Bitmain is not so good, do you recommend another machine?
I mean, I'm not saying they're not so good. I think they killed their competition, right? And they're just funny to work for. I have a love and hate relationship with them. I believe in GPU miners a lot more because that's what my company produces now. And I think they may not make as much money per day or per month, but they'll last 5-10 years. A NVIDIA graphic card runs forever. I know friends and people that have been running their machines for 7-8 years. So you're not worried about replacing a machine after 2 years or 3 years. I'll give you an example, right? So say if you have a GPU miner, you have 8 GPUs in there, NVIDIA graphic cards. And 4 years later, one goes out. The machine is still producing. You just spend another $800 or $1,000 or $2,000, replace that card, and your machine's back to the same hash rate. With Bitmain, it's very hard to do, right? Once that machine dies or gets burned out, I've replaced fans on them. That's one option, or the power supply, but beyond that, you have no control. They don't sell anything else. You can't replace the motherboard. You can't replace one graphic card. It doesn't work that way. All right, guys. Gerard, did you want to say something at the end? Yep. The end was just talking about practical mining, right?
Yeah, if you don't mind answering the question, if I want to get started today in mining, how would you walk somebody through the process? And remember that this video is probably being watched by people all over the world,
sure.
So they may not have the luxury of calling you up or whatever. But
you can call me directly. My company, Cryptolytics, we create machines, right? GPU-based machines for miners, or you can hire us as consultants. For example, whatever level you're at, say if you're investing 10,000 or 100,000, we'll set up a business plan for you, right? Where do you want to buy your machines? How much first is the acquisition of machines, right? Are you getting GPU-based machines? Or second, you're ordering them from Bitmain. If you're ordering the Bitmain machines, how many can you afford? And how fast can you get them, right? Those would be the first acquisitions of machines, will be step one. Step two would be, where are you placing the machines? If it's one, you could probably do it in your basement. If it's 10, 30, or 40, we need to find you a facility, right? A co-location facility, then run the numbers of how much they're charging you per machine, per hour, their electricity rate, their uptime, their reputation, and you break that down, you find a facility, right? And then the third is we run the numbers based on the acquisition for the machines, which is the capital required for the asset. Second is what your per month charge or per year charge for co-location or electricity is, and then we have a net from there, right? It's just math. And I'll give you the estimated profits that you can earn and how fast you can pay off the machine and get that money back and the longevity of it, right? And that's what we do. We've done it for smaller miners, larger companies as well, and it's just running numbers. I think two biggest factors in mining are cost of machines, acquisition and cost. Second is the place that you're going to host them, the cost of that per month.
And then one more question. You can mine a lot of things besides Bitcoin. You want to talk a little bit about
you can
the different
mine. There's
types?
so many coins that are mineable. There's a lot of Monero's proof of work, Litecoin is proof of work, KSA smaller cap. So there's a lot of coins that are mineable that are a lot more profitable to mine than Bitcoin, because they're smaller companies and their difficulty rates are not as high as Bitcoin. So I think KSA mining, I heard, was very profitable these days. That's one blockchain. Litecoin's there, Monero's there. I think there's just a choice that you have.
And those different coins require different machines, right?
No,
or do some of them
it
use
depends,
the same?
right? So on the Bitmain machines, right, the caveat is you can only mine Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever it's programmed to. On the GPU, you have much more control. You can switch the algorithm and mine anything you want. So like the GPUs that we produce in our company, I give a choice to all my clients, whatever they want to mine. I think they have a choice of 20 coins, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum are the most popular, and then there's like 15 other coins. But the flexibility you have in it in GPU miners is that 1 month, say you can mine Bitcoin. The next month you want to mine Monero. The following month you can mine Litecoin. So, and then if you really want to dig deeper and deeper in, you can look at statistics online of which coin is the most profitable per month and jump on that train. It's only a click of a button through a GPU miner. You can switch it.
Got it. Thanks. Anybody else have any questions? Any subject?
Yeah. And it's just...
You get electricity, you click a button and you walk away.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, it can get complicated if things happen, but as long as you keep the machine relatively cold, like basements in Northern Virginia don't get that hot, right? Maybe in June, July, you run the AC, but besides that, a GPU miner is almost like a computer. It's not that much heat. But a Bitmain machine, you need a ventilation system. You need to run duct system where the heat is going outside your house, or your house will get too hot.
You could get within a machine like a steam room and mining facility.
Yeah.
I heard that, I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that there was a company in, I don't know, Norway or something like that. They were selling space heaters, electric space heaters, that actually were miners.
I think I've heard that Tesla, you can use the energy that Tesla produces to mine. Yeah. People have hacked the Teslas and made them into like mini miners. But all those things are very small scale of mining, right?
Yeah.
Even your iPhone can mine, but it'll mine less than, I don't know, a penny of Bitcoin, right? Because the computational power of your iPhone is very low, right? Tesla's computational power is very low. These machines that are running 5,000, 10,000 are producing a lot of hash rate. So it's much higher.
Nabil, I would like to thank you for this presentation. I know I learned a lot. And we will be meeting here every month. If you go to the gbayglobal.org site and go to recurring events, you'll see it.
And I think we should start promoting it a lot earlier too.
Yeah. But I think we're going to be shifting to Mondays. I'm just not sure which Monday it is. But
Okay,
thank you
perfect.
very much. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, this is
Thank
awesome.
you guys. I appreciate it.